All right, welcome back to LeadsCon 2014. We're here with SeanFenlon from DoublePositive. Really happy to see you here at LeadsCon East. We're going to have a minute just to chit-chat and talk about things, what's going on in the industry. But first, tell me a little bit about what's going on at DoublePositive, what services you're offering. Give us a little background of people that don't know about DoublePositive and what you guys have going on. Sure.
DoublePositive is a performance-based online marketing company, and we like to think of ourselves as a real powerhouse in the lead gen space. We were founded in 2004. We consider ourselves the inventor of the hot transfer,
yes,
which is an important part of the ecosystem today. We started off in the mortgage industry in 2004, which is an extension of my previous business, which was theloanpage.com. Which was a little mortgage lead gen business that was like a mini lending tree or lower my bills, and it was sold in 2003, and it was really like one of the first lead gen exits ever, and started DoublePositive with the vision of evolving the pricing model, the performance pricing model of lead gen, from not just per impression or per click or per lead, but out to a cost per transfer model. And that did well for us until the mortgage industry blew up in 2007, 2008. And we did what a lot of the folks in this space had to do, which is to pivot into some other growing lead gen verticals like insurance and education. We were doing very good in education when that rise was occurring, and it yielded the agency of record contract with the second biggest lead buyer on the planet, which really diversified our capabilities quite a bit as their agency, a full service digital agency. And we took those capabilities and we parlayed them into some new business offerings, like a mobile pay-per-call product and a performance-based display product, coming out of the programmatic and real-time biddable display inventory, and even some conventional lead gen. And since if there's a way to describe the current state of DoublePositive, the hashtag would be diversification.
Yeah.
So now multi-vertical, we're in a lot of different verticals. We have a lot of different pricing models. We have a lot of different channels that we work within. We have a lot of different customers. And I think that's one of the keys to success in this ecosystem, is diversification.
Absolutely. And you touched on the inventor of the hot transfer and the calls,
yeah.
And I'll grant you that too, because you guys were first in the space. And now we see, we look back, 10 years have gone by.
That's right.
And calls are continuing to rise in popularity, right? Especially with the advent of mobile and display, click to call, all these sorts of things. How are you guys, reacting and evolving to that? You talked about mobile a little bit, about what, having that service offering. But what do you see there? Is this, the ramp and the calls, and how's that affecting business? What's going on there?
It's interesting. 10 years ago, the premise was the same. Calls were still more valuable than a data lead 10 years ago. So why in the world was the data lead part of the ecosystem so much bigger than the live call part of the ecosystem? My theory is filters. Is that really lead gen is a performance-based delivery of advertising. And when you buy conventional advertising, you can't say, I want this type of person in this location with this type of buying criteria.
Yeah.
But you could with a data lead. A consumer would be filling out a form which allowed a lead buyer to say, I want this one but not this one, I want to price this one like this. But in a call environment, the call is more valuable unto itself, but there's no filtering capabilities.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the data lead kind of got the early foothold. Then a lot of the offers started to commoditize, and a lot of the lead buyers and advertisers started to open up the aperture as far as what consumers they could sell to. So all of a sudden that filtering took a little bit of a backseat to the fact that live contact was the most important attribute of lead gen or online marketing. You can't sell anything to anybody you don't talk to.
Yeah.
So there's no contact, that's a sunk cost.
Yeah.
So I think the mobile channel and the fact that a mobile device is a live communication device, whereas computers really aren't, even a laptop. I mean, you can cobble something together with Skype, but the idea of establishing a live communication with somebody really had to wait for the handset. So then the ad unit, that the pay per call, or the click to call as an ad unit facilitated those calls. Now, and the industry has developed ways of filtering through IVRs. Interactive voice response systems where you press 1 if you have this or press 2 if you have that. So they've been able to get some of the best of both worlds. Some of the filtering that they used to have from the data lead gen world with that live call delivery model that is more valuable to an advertiser at the end of the day.
You know, we're talking about a call, which you can create a number of ways. One, you can create by calling a lead, a data lead, right? And then
That's right.
making a hot transfer. Or you can also create a call by a mobile click or click to call that goes directly to that advertiser.
That's right.
My question is intent. Earlier, you know, we always talk about intent, and we talked about it on different interviews about the form, and when you look at people on the form, time on the form, it relates to the intent that they have. I'm curious to know, do you think there's a lack of intent in click-to-call leads? Now, obviously, we want to get people on the call, but you know, does that reflect the lack of intent also a lower cost lead?
Yeah. So I have a formula. I don't know if anybody's going to buy it, but formula is I equals AT squared.
Okay.
Intent equals attention times time squared.
Okay.
So time is sort of friction. When a consumer fights through time, paying attention to something to get to the end, that indicates a high level of intent.
Yeah.
So even before calls were part of the ecosystem, LendingTree had a forum that sometimes took people 15, 20 minutes to complete.
Right.
Well, it yielded the highest octane leads on the planet as a result of that. Now the breakage was higher, so you have to kind of work that out. So a call in which it's an errant click on an ad in Flappy Bird, there's very low intent there.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's a live call really doesn't mean much. However, if you had somebody doing a mobile search and you present them with an ad and the ad response said, click here if you want a free quote now, and they click on that, then they go through an IVR and they have to answer several more questions, then they have to be transferred over to a live person who answers, and they stay on that phone for 60 seconds to create a billable event. I think we could probably assume there's a high level of intent with that caller.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it really has to do, it's not about the delivery model, it's about the path the consumer took and the consumer experience. And to me, the more time is spent by the consumer paying attention to the offer, the higher the intent level, the higher the interest level, and the higher conversion rate.
How do you guys deal with it? Because there's a clear shift between working data leads that will come in and you outbound call versus receiving a call.
That's right.
And clearly there's a trend, especially when you look strictly at mobile, for inbound calls.
Right.
So are companies properly making that shift? Are they able to? I mean, what you're seeing, are they able to make that shift, or is it so ingrained in outbound call versus an inbound call? Is it hard for them to be successful, or am I making this all up?
No, you're not making it up at all. You're touching on some key points. We've got a philosophy to deal with this complexity of this question, which is work backwards from demand. So the demand is the lead buyers, the advertisers. And one thing I've learned over the past 10 years is they all have unique ways about what they want to buy, how they want to buy it, how they want it priced, how they want it delivered. And for a long time at DoublePositive, we were doing what I call missionary selling, which was stop buying data leads, they're bad, buy hot transfers, they're good. But I realized billions of dollars was already set around buying data leads. So we slowly started to evolve and adapt to the idea of, look, let's work backwards from demand. How do they want it priced? How do they want it delivered? And let's work backwards. So there are some lead buyers that want a hot transfer because it is the combination of that filtered data lead that they've become accustomed to for so long. This is primarily in mortgage and education, the two big verticals, with the live call as the delivery model and the performance-based pricing on a per transfer level. Great, we've got that for you. We've got other folks that say, look, I've got an internal transfer team, I just need the data to fuel it. So great, those guys just want to buy data. We've got some other advertisers and lead buyers in verticals like home services and automotive that say, look, I'm not into that added layer of cost that call center screening might bring. If you've got a genuinely interested consumer that's on the phone that wants an auto insurance quote, I'll buy that just as is. So I have stopped trying to tell the lead buyers and marketers and advertisers of the world how to buy.
Just give them the option.
Exactly, and say, you tell me how you want to buy, and I will work backwards from that to deliver it to you at the right price.
Yeah, so how long did that take you to learn that one?
It's better part of a decade. Yep. I got some battle scars.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about that. A decade. That's 100 years in internet years. Yeah. So you've seen an evolution. You've seen or lack of evolution. Has it been an evolution? Or let's say look at the ecosystem and the buyers and sellers. I mean, have you seen an improvement? And however you define improvement, What do you see? What have you seen over the last 10 years, and what do you see moving forward?
It's interesting. We raised several rounds of venture capital, and I basically used one slide that you used to have up on your blog, the evolution slide of the CPM pricing to the CPC pricing to the cost per lead and then to the hot transfer. One of the things is it's continued to evolve, and some big businesses have emerged in this past decade that have not just stopped at the transfer as a delivery, they've actually made the sale for the customer.
Yeah.
So businesses like Red Ventures and Transact and ClearLink, they are doing full funnel customer acquisitions for their advertiser clients and doing a great job, making a lot of money doing so. I've never had the courage to enter into that last level of the funnel, which involves managing a consumer-facing sales force, not just a qualifying call center.
Yeah.
So there's been that further evolution, but also there's been a reverse or de-evolution. I don't know what the right word is for that. So with that is a lot of clicks are being bought now. So in the world of lead gen that has blossomed in this $3 billion market, I think you and I would both agree the vast majority of the value of that's coming out of search. Yeah. So a lead buyer or a lead seller buying a click from Google, turning it into a lead and then selling it. So because that's the highest intent channel, that's where the consumer's doing the searching. So along that same period of time, a lot of the biggest lead buyers developed internal teams to buy the clicks themselves on branded keywords. So they developed all this plumbing, landing page optimization and right pricing so that they could buy clicks. And they felt a heck of a lot more like a marketer when they were buying clicks on branded terms than when they were buying leads from third parties in a marketplace like this. So they're very mature in click buying. So what we're seeing is some of the biggest lead sellers go backwards and start to sell clicks now. So we've seen this with Education Dynamics, we've seen this with Quinn Street, Vantage Media, all have click-based products.
Do you think that's a result of lead quality and the animal that is delivering a data lead and a quality lead and generating that traffic versus saying, almost like you made the decision to say, I'm not going to handle the sales process. We know the call portion. And marketers, lead gen has always gone, well, we know marketing, we know paid search, we know this. And we're going to do this over here, and we're going to send you this lead. But then I call up and go, well, these leads are horrible, this, that, and the other. But now they say, listen, let's just do what our specialty is clicks or whatever it is, and sort of, like you said, de-evolutionize it sort of themselves a little bit and said, okay, this is what we're going back to.
But it gets back to what everybody wants. They would love to do all the marketing themselves.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is, the economics just were never favorable enough to do all the marketing, which is why they turn to third parties. When you turn to third party, you're having your brand disintermediated. Yeah. So Bank of America isn't the brand on the consumer offer, LendingTree is. Okay? So Bank of America would love to be the offer all the way through, even if the lead doesn't ultimately convert. So the thing about buying a click, it goes down the advertiser or the brand's path. So it's a branded lead. So irrespective, it is going to be a higher quality, now it's going to be a higher cost too, but the customer acquisition cost should still ultimately play out to be about the same, but it's branded. So even the ones that don't convert, they feel pretty good about. They were in complete control of their brand and the consumer experience from end to end. So clicks are making a comeback, and I'm very impressed because I've never heard of a reverse evolution or de-evolution before.
So we've got that, and we look forward in the next few years, and I say a few years because typically I say, what's the future of 5 years? But being our industry evolves pretty quickly for the most part, technology-wise. What do you see? How do you see things moving forward? Do you see this continual evolution of clicks? Do you see mobile expanding more? I mean, maybe that's a little obvious. Or what other things do you see from a buyer standpoint and even a marketer or a sales standpoint from an evolution standpoint the next couple of years?
More software, more technology. The greatest challenge I think this whole ecosystem faces in every vertical is at the end of the day, it's a funnel that brings a human together with a human. And Mike, you've managed sales forces before, or you've been part of sales organizations, and that's wildly unpredictable. So you can try and right price your leads and have all this smart decisioning, but at the end of the day, when you bring a human together with a human, that's wildly unpredictable. So I would look for technologies that reduces the dependence on a live human salesperson. Now there are some industries where you're just not going to get away from it. The mortgage industry is way too complex to have an automated end-to-end transaction. Some would probably say the same about education. However, there are probably areas in which software and technology can replace a lot of the functions and let the consumer take control of what they're trying to accomplish. So the amount of human salesperson involvement is really limited in scope.
Yeah.
They're not as much of an administrator, just more of a facilitator. And so there's some technologies even here at the show. If you've taken a look at AVA.ai,
Yep.
there's some artificial intelligence to be the front end of lead management so that the salesperson role is a little bit more limited, and that way the unpredictable part of that whole value chain is more mitigated.
Yeah. So last thing. You've been to what? Have you been to every LeadsCon?
All of them.
Every single
Every
one
single
of them.
one.
How has it changed? A little plug for LeadsCon here. I want to know what your opinion is. How it's changed, how it's helped the industry, and your take on it. You've been to every single one, for Christ's sake. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Look. This is the easiest plug ever, because a lot of people walking around the floor here have heard me say these same words. I attribute a lot of the success, most of the success, and the growth to the growth of LeadsCon. So, as the world's first hot transfer provider back in the day, we found ourselves largely in between the lead buyers and the lead sellers.
Yeah.
But we didn't know who the buyers were and who the sellers were, nor what the value proposition was. We would do Google searches to try and find people on both sides of this equation. And then in 2007, Jay had just come off a Targus Info Summit, and sent me a note saying, hey, I'm thinking about that, but instead of a customer summit around one company, I'm thinking about a broader ecosystem type trade show. And I said, sign me up, we'll be the first sponsor.
Yep.
And since then, what we saw in 2007 was largely dominated by the mortgage industry still. But by 2008, 2009, that has shifted, and education has really taken the scene. And I'd say these last few years has really been a multi-vertical play, and now with the birth of B2B LeadsCon, you got a whole new dimension to chase down. But look, the idea of having this nebulous cloud of performance marketing and lead gen galvanized twice a year, so that people are on stage and the networking is fantastic, and obviously the meeting rooms are always quite busy and full of buzz. All of a sudden people can map out this landscape, and then they can have a strategy on how to bring their specific business into the market. And so the ability of a company to start very quickly and blossom very quickly. I think of Lead Cloud as a company that without LeadsCon, I just can't imagine how it could have gotten so much traction so quickly. So it's a fantastic service to the whole ecosystem, and thank goodness for Jay for starting it. Thank goodness for you and your team for continuing it.
Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us today, Sean, and it's good always to touch base with you and get your thoughts on the vertical and the industry as a whole. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.